everybody. I hope you are having a fabulous week. I miss you. I love you. And I cannot wait to talk to you all very soon. Start thinking about all these things as we're working on television and we're dealing with the internet and all these times that people are cooking and drinking and hanging out together. And I realize that I get asked a lot of culinary questions and questions about booze that I do not always know the answer to. I know. So I've gotten together an expert panel to get answers to your most asked questions. First of all, one of my favorite people in the entire world, Jinx Jordan, is here, pastry chef extraordinaire, and the man who created and built and baked and decorated Nathan and our wedding cake. Hi, Jinx. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Blythe. Hi, Nathan. It's good to see y'all.
How's it going over there?
It's going pretty good.
Oh, look, you're so official. You have your chef coat on with your name on it.
Well, yeah, I worked. I worked today.
Braggart.
Hey.
And another friend that you guys should know very well and recognize, the best bartender I know, mixologist and man extraordinaire, Thomas Holbert is here.
Hey, how's it going, Chef?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Nate. How you doing over there, man?
Good, looking good.
Oh my gosh, you look good. It does not look like quarantine's caught up with you at all.
No, maybe my liver, but
Especially alive. And finally, the greatest producer in the entire world, who's going to ask us the questions we do not know the answers to. We better know the answers to. The best producer in the entire world, Scoop, is here, and he is going to ask the questions. Now, we do not know the questions and have not been given the questions prior to this taping, correct?
Mostly correct.
And we have reached out to our fans and friends, right? And people that you know who have questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I've got 10 or so questions for each person. So, and I'll cut out if the answers are bad, I'll cut them out.
Okay.
That's good.
It's
good.
Yeah. Cool. We're Team Black.
Yeah.
Team Black, baby.
Black.
Team Black. All right.
Oh, wait, no. You can't be Team Black. I'm Team Black. Thank you, Jinx.
By law, we are Team Black. So you got to be
by the universe, I'm Team Black. Kidding me? You can be Team Chef Gardner. The same.
Okay. No. You need to Thomas, your team medium rare, medium well. No. Side.
All right. Well, I want to hear from Jinx, and I want to know what's your favorite pastry to make?
That kind of depends. Sometimes you get sick of making something, so you try not to make it. Right now, I think coconut cake is one of my favorite things to make. Today I did a buttermilk cake. It's really good too, and I haven't made that cake in a long time. So I like making pies. I like making breakfast pastries. So that's really a hard question to ask. It's like, which child is your favorite? You love them all the same.
True story. Jinx made me a coconut cake one time, and I ate it all in one day. That is a true story. I could not stop eating it. It was like the most moist coconut cake I've ever had in my life. I destroyed it.
Nathan, to be fair, you also ate our cake topper that we were supposed to eat for our 1-year anniversary on our wedding night.
I remember that.
So I guess Nathan's a big fan.
It was a zebra cake topping. It was insane.
Oh, that one was peanut butter.
Oh, peanut butter, yeah. It was insane.
Okay.
That's okay. You'll get another one on your anniversary.
So, Thomas, same question. What's your favorite pastry to bake? I'm just kidding. What's your favorite drink to make?
I was about to say, because I don't cook. I don't pastry anything. I go straight to Jinx for that. I can't.
What's your favorite drink to make? And don't say it's like asking your favorite child, because Jinx already took that answer.
Yeah.
That's true. And I do have a favorite child. It is what it is. Every parent lies and says they don't have a favorite child. There's a favorite. but I wasn't my favorites. But I think anything that takes any type of like preparation, you know what I mean? Like I like to infuse things. I like to experiment with different flavor combinations, whether they're right or wrong. I like to see what other bartenders in other parts of the world are doing and take a random fruit or herb or seed and try to make a syrup out of it or something, you know what I mean? And see what it's all about. And that's just kind of what I like to do.
Very cool.
So my favorite, to be honest, like my favorite, I like a good Manhattan. You know what I mean? It's booze forward. You know, there's only 3 ingredients. But if I have to make a drink, I like to experiment with different things. You know what I mean? Things I've never touched in my life.
Okay, so Team Blythen.
Oh! That is our official name.
That was the official.
Do you guys have a favorite dish to make?
I know mine.
Okay.
Turkey tacos.
That is that is our favorite thing to make as a family, yes. Turkey tacos. We started eating those when we were
In
first
Houston.
together. We were very, very poor. We like to scrape together some cash, and it's like the turkey, the tacos, and the crappiest bottle of wine that we could afford for $2.35.
Under all $10.
That's true. As a family, I would say turkey tacos. That's a
Turkey
good answer.
tacos, for
No.
sure.
Nice.
A lot of history behind those turkey tacos. So
Yeah.
Very cool. So I got 2 answers and 1 kind of answer. So I'm putting down the score. All right.
Oh, yes.
I know we're keeping score. But okay, all right.
Yes.
We can't have teams without scores.
Okay. Now I know. Now I know what the playing field is, so we're good to go now.
All
All
right.
right. I've got a bonus question that we can ask each of you, but Thomas specifically. I'm about to run out of the scotch that I'm drinking right now. What's the best thing to drink straight? If I go to a liquor store this afternoon, what's the best thing I can get to drink straight?
To drink straight?
Lazy.
And it has to be scotch? It can be anything at all?
It can be anything.
Oh, man. You know, I mean, if it were me and you're tired of scotch, just get you a nice aged rum. You know? Drink it straight. Florida Con 12-year, any type of 25-year, if you have that kind of coin. Get you a nice rum, a couple of ice cubes, sit outside and kick it, chill.
Nice.
You'll be happy you did.
Perfect. Anybody else have any advice in that regard?
Yeah, wine. That is meant to be drunk. Hello.
I'd
Makes
say
sense.
Fireball on a cloudy day like it is today.
Oh, I'd say you'd be divorced after you drink all that Fireball.
So back to Jinx. Let me ask if you have any advice for aspiring pastry chefs.
Sure. Aspire to do something else.
Amen.
It's like just be prepared to work your butt off, and sometimes without any appreciation. But play with things. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to like try different flavors with stuff. I think pastry's a hard choice to make. So if you've made that choice, then you figure out what you want to do. I mean, I'm Southern, so that's my style, but there's a lot of people that, do some beautiful chocolate work. And if that's what you want to do, then, go for it. But it's going to take you a while to learn how to do that. It's not super easy to temper chocolate, but it's super fun once you've done it. So it's rewarding, but it's a lot of work.
We're going to get some questions that are kind of specific to the person, but for now, we're going to keep asking the same ones. So, Thomas, what's your advice for an aspiring bartender?
Yeah, just don't stop learning. You know what I mean? Like once you think that you know 25 basic cocktails and everything's great, go home. Like your job is not just behind the bar. It's in, studying and books like the Flavor Bible. This is not just for cooking. It's for bar folks as well. There's a lot of similarities between being a chef and a bartender. Understanding, what flavors go together and just experimenting, making sure that you have a significant other that doesn't mind the kitchen being sticky every now and again because you're playing with syrups and stuff at home. And lastly, I think the most important thing is just concentrate on the person right in front of you instead of a bar packed full of people. I'm not saying slow down, but make sure that the person that you're giving service to understands that, it's a hospitality industry, you're being hospitable. Don't look past that person. Look at that person, take that person's drink, make sure they get what they want and they're happy with it, and then move on. Everyone else will understand. You know what I mean? But yeah, don't look past, don't look down. You know what I mean? Just look what's right in front of you and take as good a care as that person as you can. I think that's mostly what bartending is about. Because anyone can remember recipes.
Very cool. And then Blythe and Nathan, same question to you. If you had, advice to give to kind of aspiring chefs or someone who wants
to do it. No, I'm just kidding. No, go ahead. I'll let you answer this one because
I think that it's kind of close to what Thomas said. Like, first, never stop learning, never stop growing. You never can learn. You can never know enough. You can never learn at all. You can never stop learning. Remember that your guests are what's important. As big as chef egos are, and they are ginormous. It's about taking care of your guest and honoring their moments and being appreciative and grateful that they chose your food to have those moments with, because nothing is more humbling or more powerful than getting to cook for people's biggest moments in their lives. So there has to be some humility, some gratitude, and a whole lot of butter.
Very good. Great work, guys. I've got one more that I'm going to ask each of you the same one, and then we'll kind of split them up into some more specific ones. But do any of you guys have a biggest work-related pet peeve that you want to share?
Yes. Sense of urgency is my biggest pet peeve in the world. If you're not running like your ass is on fire, you are not doing it right. I know Thomas's, I bet $1 million I know what Thomas's is. Actually, I bet I know Jinx's too. Can I take a bet on what you're going to say?
Do you want to take a bet?
Kinda.
Okay.
My bet with Thomas is nobody behind his bar, and he doesn't want anybody touching his stuff and no one behind his bar. My bet with Jinx is do not touch my shit. Don't eat my stuff.
I'm with you, Jinx. I'm with you.
Clean up your stuff. You just better clean up.
Yeah. Yes.
You could ask to borrow. And I might. Well, probably I'll let you borrow it, but you better bring it back to me. I better not have to go hunt for it.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, and Jinx, to piggyback on that, you better bring it back to me clean.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like, that's a given.
Don't hand me a spoon of peanut butter on.
Dirty, and
I gave you a clean spoon.
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know, boys. I just thought those would be your answers because I worked with you both and I know you well. So.
All right. So, Jinx, I've got a question from a viewer who says he wants advice from a pastry chef on how to get buttercream that isn't grainy.
Oh, that's perfect. You get your you separate your eggs. You don't need the yolks, but save them for something that you can use for. I make buttercreams every day. Do your yolks and your sugar over a pot of simmering water, and you whisk it. You bring it to 160. You bring it to 160, and then you put it into the mixer bowl, and you get it whipping. And when it gets nice and like room temperature, not really room temperature, but not so hot that it would melt the butter that's into a liquid form, then you just drop room temperature. It has to be room temperature butter. Drop room temperature butter in a couple of tablespoons at a time. Let it work in and do it. And then And then if if it's just like a vanilla buttercream, then add your vanilla towards the end, and then put the paddle attachment on and whip it really fast so it gets smooth. If it's chocolate, then pour your chocolate in at the end, and then whip it with the paddle attachment until it's really smooth. And the key is getting that sugar to the 160, the sugar and the egg whites to 160 degrees, because that eliminates all the graininess, because it's now one thing.
Oh, we learned
That was
something.
an easy answer. I mean, that was an easy question for me.
That sounds like it. That's really interesting.
That is interesting.
All right, so Thomas, this one's actually from me. I want to know the difference between shaken and stirred.
Between shaken and stirred? Okay.
Because I don't stir.
That's pretty easy. So when you shake a drink, you aerate it. You let in all of these tiny little air bubbles and dilution, little tiny ice crystals and everything. So it really makes the drink like frothy and aerated. You just double straight into your glass, and that's when you see all the bubbles and everything on top, where your drink's kind of like, looking at you and laughing at you, with all the bubbles and the froth and everything. There's a reason for that type of shaking and pouring and display of a drink. You know what I mean? If you have some juices or anything like that in your drink, you want to be able to aerate the juice and mix everything properly, and then have it come out and have this nice, presentation with this nice white thin film of froth on top. It looks good. When you stir a drink, you don't aerate it, you chill it, and it keeps this viscosity of all of the ingredients in the drink. For example, we talked about Manhattans earlier. So if Manhattan's only 3 ingredients, it's just my my bourbon or rye, my vermouth, and then some bitters. And I don't want to water down the drink so much that I don't want to dilute the drink so much with all these ice crystals. I want to taste the vermouth playing with the bourbon, playing with the bitters. So you just stir until it's cold enough. And you can even tell when you pour the drink, it's this nice silky viscosity texture as opposed to this nice aerated texture in the drink that you shook it. So that would be the difference. And I challenge you, Scoop, to try both. You know what I mean? Like if you make a drink, I wouldn't do it with any juices. But if you make a Manhattan yourself with those 3 ingredients, shake it, Who cares? It's your drink. And then, or stir it. Do both. And then see what you like better. Personally, I like mine stirred, but James Bond likes his shaken. So, I mean, who's to say who's right? He can kill me. So, it's all good.
Very cool. My wife and I are going to have to do some blind taste tests
Yeah.
between shaken and stirred. All right. So Blythe and Nathan, I got a bunch of questions here. Let me pick one. Let me stick on the same kind of theme. I had a question here that says, why are there so many different types of cuts of ingredients? So you can chop things, you can dice them, you can julienne them. I don't think that's a verb, but
Yes,
why are there so many different things, and what are some key ones to know?
That's a great question. There's different knife cuts because there's different things that the food is doing. So if you're trying to create a sauce, then you want a cut that's even, but you're not looking for it to be aesthetically beautiful but all the same size. That's kind of a rough chop to make things kind of the same size so that you're making a sauce to get the flavor out of. But if you're doing like very small knife work, like a brunoise or a dice, that is something that is going to probably not be cooked. So it's going to either be a garnish or part of a jam it's something that's going to be a knife work that is going to be seen. It has to be all uniform. Like pico de gallo is a great example of that, right? Like that's a raw relish that is going to be that you need everything the same size and it needs to be uniform so that all the ingredients are cohesive. So that's why julienning is something that if you wouldn't dice onions for fajitas, right? You want a julienne, which is like the long, thin slicing of vegetables to go with your long, thin slices of meat. It has to do with what you're making and how you're cooking and what goes into it. But the reason that you have different knife cuts is for size, uniform, and cutting or cooking instructions, like what you're doing to it.
So if I'm reading a recipe online and it says I need to julienne the onions, I really need to do that, and a chop won't do for that dish.
Well, right, because especially a vegetable, like most vegetables are so water heavy that if you're like beating the hell out of these onions, then you're going to have all the water gone, which is all the flavor in those ingredients. So yeah, if it says julienne, you best be julienning, and you never julienne herbs. You never julienne herbs because it beats them up, especially basil. That's why it's always hand torn. You never cut it.
So I've learned that if I don't know a word in a recipe, I need to go learn it, or else I'll do it wrong. Got it.
Well, I mean,
give me more work to do.
Like Thomas said, it's like, you play with it. It's food. You're going to eat it. You're going to enjoy it.
Sure.
But if you want things to turn out, right, you should do it the right way.
But always experiment.
Yeah,
sure.
But I mean, knife work is one of those things that it takes a lot of skill. I mean, I remember at the mansion, I had to do a 25-pound bucket of diced tomatoes. My chef put his hand through the first thing and like, you think these are diced, and dumps 25 pounds of potatoes. I mean, it's you have to be like that, but I mean, it's important. It's important for what you're making.
Very cool. All right, so Jinx, I've got this question that says, what's the difference between frosting and icing? Is there one?
I think it's just like a regional thing. I mean, you could do. I mean, it could refer to like just like a glaze. It would be the only difference. But icing and frosting are pretty much the same thing. I mean, I think it's just what you're used to saying.
Gotcha. It's pretty interchangeable.
Yeah, pretty interchangeable. Because if you're going to talk about like a glaze, I mean, that's a definite glaze, where you just like have like sugar and some like fruit juice and you run it over it. That's just a glaze. That's not icing or frosting. Icing and frosting are pretty much the same.
All right. So how about bread flour and all-purpose flour? What's the difference there?
A lot of difference.
So not the same question at all.
Well, flour is there's different kinds of grains or not grains, grinds. All-purpose flour is used mostly. I mean, like there's cake flour or pastry flour, which is very, 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 very fine. And then all-purpose flour is a good fine. Bread flour has a lot more gluten to it. Just the wheat has a lot more gluten. I mean, like there are some southern flours like Martha White and White Lily that are southern flours, and they're very light in gluten and almost like cake flour. And they make the best crusts and the best and the best biscuits, according to Natalie Dupree. But all-purpose flour is a good flour to use. But bread flour, you really only want to use it for bread. You don't want to use it in any other way because the gluten in it is strong. I mean, and it's meant to hold things together.
All right. So Thomas, and let me look at these questions. Let me ask you this one, Thomas. This one's not from me, but I'm definitely curious to know, what is to you the true old fashioned? It's one of my favorite drinks. I get it everywhere I go, but I don't know what's a true old fashioned.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of variations on this drink. And I believe the simplest way is the best way. You have bourbon or rye, a sugar cube or simple syrup, and bitters. Those three are your original old-fashioned cocktail, according to Jerry Thomas, which is like the first bartender to kind of record all of his drinks, which is kind of like the Bible that a lot of our bartenders nowadays look back to. That kind of harkens back to like my books, as far as like the Joy Mixology by Gary Reagan. If you look in here, an original old fashioned is just those three old fashioned cocktails. It's just those three ingredients: What I like to do, since I have them available, I think, I like to add a couple of lemon peels to my old fashioned, a couple of orange peels to my old fashioned. I don't muddle any oranges or cherries or anything, which people do. I'm not going to knock it. I just don't want that stuff in my teeth. So I just use the essential oils from the lemon, orange, add my bitters, add my bourbon, and just a little bit of sweetener to take off that hit from the bourbon. Stir, stir, stir. So you keep that viscosity, and you have a traditional old-fashioned cocktail. That's how I do it.
Very cool. Really quickly, while we're on the topic, I've seen you. Is it called expressing the peel?
Yeah.
How do you do that? I've watched you do it, and I've tried at home, and I have no idea how that works.
Okay.
It's a nice spray when you do it, and I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah, so it's good. I mean, I wish I had a match or something so I can show you maybe on camera, but when you express the orange peel, and you can actually do this at home. Science experiment at home, kids. If you have a little glass of water and you take that orange peel or lemon peel and just squeeze a little bit, what you're going to do is express or extract those essential oils on top of that water, and you'll be able to see it and smell it. Once you bring it up to your nose, you'll have this nice citrusy smell. Basically, what you're doing is you're getting the essential oils from the peel onto the drink. So when you drink your old-fashioned or whatever you have, whatever you're making, let's say it's an old-fashioned, and you express the orange and lemon peel, that helps with drinking the cocktail, right? I mean, you have your smelling as a scent. So once you bring the drink up to your nose, you're going to smell this great citrusy, orangey, lemony smell. Then you're going to taste it in the drink, and you're also going to taste the booze. It all just helps with the overall presentation and taste and smell of the drink, and that's it. So
very cool. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah,
because I've squeezed it and it's nothing comes out. And I just feel dumb.
You think nothing comes out, but you can take it and put on like the back of your hand and like feel the water that's coming from this egg, like from this peel. I mean, I just felt just now.
Maybe you should squeeze stuff and feel it on the back of your hand.
Do you see that? Like, can you guys see that on camera? So, you see that?
Nice.
So that's the peel and all the oils, going through the fire. And like you can see it; it's a visual there. But and I smell all the lemon and stuff in the air now. That's all you're doing. You're adding like an aroma to the top of the drink, and it's really good with egg whites because if you make drinks with egg whites. Which is great. The smell of an egg white drink without any type of express peel on top it smells like wet cardboard. You know what I mean? To me, everyone has different smells and, all sensory factors.
All right. So Blythe and Nathan, it's your turn. And I'm going to stick on knife work because I remember you were trying to teach me how to sharpen a knife a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
And I was failing pretty miserably at it. Yes. So if I'm too uncoordinated to do it or too impatient, is one of those automatic ones you can buy, is that worth doing, or should I just learn how to sharpen a knife?
Okay. Oh, like the chef part of me just like hurt a little bit when you talked about using one of those store-bought ones. But before you get there, I mean, like when talking about knives in general, if you're going to spend any money in your kitchen at all, buy a great knife. Like buy a great knife. You should never use a cheap knife or cheap olive oil, right? Those are the two things that you need the best of. So start there, right? A great knife is usually a single piece of steel. We use Japanese steel. We use globals, but you can use whatever. But a great knife is usually a single piece of steel. And when buying a good knife, it lives longer, so you don't have to be sharpening it. The reason you have to sharpen knives so much is a lot of times they're not as expensive, or they're not money wise, but quality wise. So they're not keeping their edge on them. So that's first thing. If you're going to spend any money in your kitchen, spend it on a knife. It makes beautiful knife work, makes your life easier. and you're worth it, and your food's worth it. If you can't sharpen it and you don't like, there's whetstones that you can get out there, do not use those unless you know what you're doing, because you will ruin the blade of your knife. So I wouldn't do that. But you can get a honer, which is what we were trying to teach you and Claire. Like it's a steel is what it's called, where you can sort of hone your blade that'll keep the edge tight. But I always feel like if you have an expensive knife and you don't really know how to sharpen it, there are people that will literally come to your house and sharpen your knives in a truck, or you can send them off, or there's a great place in Dallas that will do it for you. But I wouldn't mess with that. The ones that you can get, this hurts my chef's stomach a little bit. The ones that you can get where you can run them through, is that what you're talking about? Like
I've seen those online. I've thought about it, but
what'd you say?
I've seen those online. I thought about picking one up because the knives are getting a bit dull, but
they work.
They work. I mean,
but they work. They're just your knife. Our knives are an extension of our hands. I mean, those are everything. So I would get it. I would do it myself, but otherwise get it done professionally. But yes, in a pinch, you can do those. I would use those more for like a boning knife, a paring knife, not for like a big chef knife.
I would suggest us to go out and buy a long steel, point it towards the ground, and start learning yourself. And then you'll start, and then take your thumb and you run it across the blade. But you'll start to figure out how to.
Maybe we don't tell people the knife blade trick.
Well, I'm just saying. But then you'll start figuring out, hey, I'm starting to be able to sharpen this. You want to go at like a 45-degree angle, just like this nice smooth. Just start from the very back and just work it all
from
the way down.
From the heel to the tip. And the other thing, when you have a knife that people don't think about, like to take care of it, a dishwasher, they're tough on knives, right? Because it beats up that steel and it's tough on them. So you always want to hand wash it, right? You're not gonna put your baby like in a dishwasher, okay? You shouldn't put your knife in there either. And the other thing, it drives me up the wall when I see it on commercials or TV shows where there's chefs. It makes me nuts when they like are cutting on a cutting board. Jinx, I bet you notice this too. When they're like cutting on a cutting board and they go to scrape the cutting board and they scrape the blade along the board. No chef does that. No chef does that. That's knife. No chef does that. You always flip it on the back side. On the back side of it. You would never, ever, no chef would do that. And there's a certain food company out there that I see your ads all the time, and it's chef-driven meals, and the chef is riding her knife along the cutting board. That's inexcusable. It's the most offensive thing I've ever seen. Sorry, I'll step off my soapbox. But no chef.
No, that's a great answer.
No chef would ever do that.
Okay, so Jinx, you're up. I've got this question and a couple follow-ups. So can you tell me the difference between, and I think I know the answer, but I kind of want to hear it from you, between baking and cooking?
Well,
depends on what one of us you ask.
I mean, baking is cooking. It's just a form of cooking. And in pastry, some of the stuff you do on top of the stove, which is cooking, and some of the stuff you do in the oven, which is baking. If you're talking about pastries are more science-driven and to an extent. I mean, not to knock savory, because they do the same thing. You have your rubs that you do the whole thing and you make your whole thing. But I mean, with pastry, it's like, you have to have the right amount of leavening and the right leavener to get the product that you want. Like with bread, it would be yeast. With cakes, it's baking soda or baking powder, sometimes a combination of the two, but you use baking soda mostly with buttermilk. Things have buttermilk in it. That reaction between the buttermilk and the baking soda helps it rise. You can play with things to like get a recipe that works perfectly for you, but once you kind of get it honed, you learn that you have to do it this way or it's going to sink. I mean, a cake that's got too much fat in it sometimes will sink in the middle, and when you pull it out of the oven, and you just learn how to do it. But there is a science to it. You need to like keep your portions right, your measurements right. With savory, you can kind of like edge stuff, and you can a little bit with pastry, but you still have to stick with science. I mean, there's a great cookbook out by Shirley Corrigan, which is talking about the science of baking, and that's really a great thing to know, because there is science involved in it. And I hated science in school. I really did. It was like, it sucked. Who knew I was going to do this? And math, I hated math. Who knew I was going to be like, doing a job where every day I'm having like divide and multiply numbers and portions. It's like, I should have paid more attention. But
I guess that's kind of my impression, is that it's much more. It has to be the exact amount of each ingredient, or else it's just gonna not be right at all. Whereas if I'm, say, cooking chicken fried steak or something, if I don't do it exactly right, it's still gonna come out functioning, and I feel like there's more wiggle room. Is that?
There is more wiggle room with savory, and sometimes you just learn by by testing a recipe what works for you. It's like one of the holidays we went through during this coronavirus, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Easter. I did a carrot cake, and it was like when I first started doing it, it was like it was not coming out. So I decided, well, I'll add. I mean, because I was using baked powder, I'll add a little baking soda to it too, and then it worked out perfectly. So then I started like going, okay, cool, and then like I can bump them out and have the same product every time. That's what you look for. You want the consistency of the end product, and it's all about science.
Well, and let me loop Nathan and Blythe in really quickly, because I imagine if you're cooking in a kitchen, cooking to order, it probably does need to be pretty consistent measurements and that sort of thing, or is it still? Do you just kind of know?
Well, those are two different questions.
Sure.
Still.
Yeah,
And
you do know. It's and like, just to like sort of piggyback on what Jinx said, like cooking, the way that I've made some of my greatest sauces in the world, some of my greatest gravies, is like I kept putting stuff in until it felt right, like, or it tasted right. That's why great pastry chefs like Jinx have a job, because I could not do what he does, the measuring and the counting and the, we throw stuff in a pot so it starts to taste good. And so it's much, like, I think for Jinx it has to be much more exact than it is for us. Yes, when you get to the commercial level and you're putting out 100 meals, 200 meals at a time, that hollandaise sauce has to taste the exact same every time those guests come in. Our jalapeno gravy has to taste the exact same time every way. But you also cook to feel to taste to make it perfect. And then you know.
After doing it for so long.
And and you look at a dish and you're like, I mean, even if like the twinge of the hollandaise is the wrong color, you're like, there's too many egg yolks in there, or there's not enough cayenne in there. I can look at dishes and be like, there's not enough black pepper in there, or there's not enough fat in there. Like a gravy should cling to the back of a spoon. So it's like, but it has to be consistent for the customers, absolutely, for the guests, so that it's the same way every time. But chefs absolutely cook by feel. Like, you absolutely know, like, when something's right or wrong.
Yeah, because we can keep adding. Jinx won't be able to keep adding.
Yeah, we can fix a lot of things too. Like, if a sauce breaks on us, like it separates, there's some hacks in the kitchen. You can fix it. I don't know that he has that flexibility, because it is so exact. Like, if a souffle breaks on, if a souffle falls, you ain't coming back from that.
No.
But if a hollandaise breaks on me, I can fix it. If a beurre blanc breaks on me, I can fix it.
So Jinx, do you then measure every single thing that goes in? I mean, or do you kind of know what a teaspoon looks like when you put it in?
Oh no, I measure. And like all my recipes, I have it done in like a 1 times batch, a 2 times batch, a 3 times batch. I mean, that's how I write off the recipes. So, so it depends on how many I'm making, but yeah, I measure, because if you don't measure, or you forget. What I really hate is when someone comes up and starts talking to me in the middle of I'm doing the dry ingredients, because then you question, did I add that? So the best thing to do is to like put it into little bitty containers, so that like, oh yeah, okay, I know, I've got that measured, and then just add it in at the last minute. But yes, I measure. You just have to. I mean, you could bring back a buttercream frosting from it breaking. There are things you can do, like Bly said about a hollandaise. There are things, but not when you're baking something. You can't. Once it's fallen, it's fallen.
Let's ask if Barry is fallen. You are crying. Or creme brulee that's turned into.
Or that's moist in the middle. That's like not cooked all the way through.
Yes.
And you like Todd. Todd used to like that way. He liked to have that creme brulee where it was like, it just like, I was always like, salmonella scared. Yeah.
So let me go to Thomas. I've got a couple questions that are probably pretty quick for you.
Okay.
In a whiskey sour, egg whites or no?
If you have them on hand, yeah, every single time. If you have any kind of sour, for the most part, if you have egg whites on hand, yeah, do it. It'll make it better.
Okay, so when I do my taste tests, shaken and stirred, I should stir the egg white in and just go to town.
No, you want to? Sorry, no.
I'm just kidding.
You don't want to stir egg whites, because that wouldn't be good. The whole point of egg whites is to get that froth. So you want to shake it first, and you want to shake it first without ice. If you have a shaker, shake it first with all the ingredients, sans the ice, so that you froth up all of that, and incorporate all the booze into that egg white, so that you're not, like Jinx was saying, like salmonella is it's a silent killer. So you don't want to do that. But if you
the silent killer, did you?
It's a silent killer. Yeah, we had a salmonella poisoning outbreak in back in 05. It was crazy.
Wow, that was
05, 06. One of them years.
Surreal.
Say what?
That was surreal. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was. Yes. Summer salmonella. But yeah, so you want to shake first, and then put the ice in, and then shake. And remember what we talked about. It's going to smell like wet cardboard because it's egg white. It's going to give you. It is. That's just how it is. Wet cardboard or wet dog. Egg whites don't smell good on their own. It's true. It's true. I'm sorry to say, but it's not. But it gives a good mouthfeel, and it gives a good texture to the drink. So make sure you have that expressed peel, to put on top. And now you're smelling like citrus, and you have that good textured mouthfeel. And then the egg whites are doing all the good work. So it's a process that you have to use egg whites. But to answer your question, yes, use egg whites.
Very good. And then I have another question from a viewer that says, "Do all bartenders really hate making mojitos?"
No. I mean, if this is my bar setup, right, and I have all the stuff to make whatever's on the menu, and it's like, okay, great. But if you ask me for, hey, can I get a kumquat martini? Well, I don't have kumquats. I don't have kumquats. I don't know where kumquats are. I have to go to the back and get kumquats. So that's what makes it hard. But if I have mint with me, then yeah, I don't mind making a mojito at all. No bartender does. But if it's like, can I get a mojito? And it's like obviously you're paying attention to your guests and you want to give them what they need, but it's clear I don't have any mint anywhere around. It kind of sucks. So yeah, I'll be right back. Let me get your mint, sir. Go get it in the back.
So I should just glance at the bar and see if they have mint handy before I order a mojito.
That would be ideal. Trust me, it's free country. Order what you want. They're going to make it with a smile. But if the bartender's set up like how he or she should be, then yes, a mojito is great. 'Cause I like making mojitos. I like making it if I'm prepped for it. Because I make a good mojito and I like to see them. It's like, oh man, like you love it. That's great. It's a good tropical drink. It's exactly what you want and great. But if I don't have any mint,
I feel you. Jinx, I have a question for you. And we're getting kind of towards the end. So I think this next question is going to be similar for each of you. But what's one maybe surprising or underrated thing that pretty much anyone who's not a professional chef could buy and put in their kitchen that's going to step up their like baking game?
A KitchenAid.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, KitchenAid. It's, it's the best mixer around. And it's a good investment. They last forever. So, and even when they break down, there's usually people that can like fix them for you. It's the best investment you can do for if you want to bake and everything. It really is.
Good to know. Yeah, I think we had one of those on our wedding registry last summer, but didn't end up with one. And I was like, well, we probably don't need it, but if it makes a big difference,
it's a good mixer. It's the best mixer. It's made in America. It's
yeah, very cool. And then is there any other advice you would have just for the beginner, like a skill to learn or a thing to have around or anything like that if someone's trying to?
Good pans, good cake pans. Winton makes good cake pans. You can get them at any, like at Michael's. Those are good cake pans. Good measuring spoons and good measuring cups. Not like some flimsy little thing. And no offense against Tupperware, but no Tupperware. Get a nice sturdy metal.
No offense, Tupperware, but no.
Yeah, well, yeah, but don't. I mean, my mother had a Tupperware measuring thing that I never could figure out. It was like, if you fill it to this amount, it's this cup. It was like, get over it. Get yourself good measuring equipment, good pans, and a KitchenAid. And know your oven. Get yourself like one of those little attachable thermometers you can put in your oven so that you can test your oven so that you know your oven, because sometimes ovens are off temperature wise from the gauge, and it's just good to know your oven.
What are you gonna say?
That's it. The rest of it, just practice. Get in the water and hit a button.
Very cool. Appreciate you. So Thomas, same question to you. What's a good purchase to make that's going to upgrade the home bar of somebody?
Shaker tins. You say you didn't have shaker tins, Scoop. So
yeah, shut up.
Like shaker tins, because you can always stir with a straw in a glass. You know what I mean? Like, any kind of glass. But so you have that handy. But shaker tins, yeah. Get you a nice pair of shaker tins that have a good seal on them. Make that sound, and then start there.
Very cool. And any just general advice that you think that people don't know about who are making drinks at home that is going to kind of step up their game?
Yeah. Whatever your favorite liquor is or liqueur, if you like vodka and you have, $50 to spare, get a 350 or 375 or whatever milliliter of 3 different types of vodka. Grey Goose is your favorite, Grey Goose, and then get Tito's, and then get something on the lower end. But you want 3 different price tiers of vodka, and just taste test them, very small. Get 3 glasses, pour Grey Goose in one, Tito's in another, and, Gordon's or Montepaloa, which they're not the same. But let's say Montepaloa in another glass. Get just a little bit of purified water, couple of drops, and taste test yourself. And then figure out what you like the best. Because sometimes brand recognition perverts the mind, and it's like, oh man, I love this expensive vodka, when maybe you really don't. Maybe you really love that $12 bottle of vodka over there that's really good and smooth and delicious, but you'll never know until you taste it on your own and then feel the after effects the next day. But yeah, I would get 3 different types and 3 different price tiers and start from there. There's going to be different flavors in each bottle, and even for the novice, taste tester, you will find discernible differences in each bottle. So I would start there.
Very cool. Appreciate it. I see Blythe and Nathan putting their heads together over here. So
we're arguing about what
I want to say sous vide.
Sous vide.
Or sous vide.
Yeah, I totally disagree.
Oh, I'm sorry. So did you know the question that was coming? It sounds like you're answering it.
Jinx. We heard you ask Thomas.
Okay, so you have an advantage. I'm docking some points for this one. But
Thank you. What's the point system here? I feel like Jinx and I have been killing it. It's between me and Jinx. She's far behind. He and I are neck and neck, but I don't know.
The point system is secret. That's privileged.
Nathan and I were arguing about what is how to step up your game in the kitchen.
Well, let's hear both sides then.
Okay, for me, I think if you are going to do anything for yourself in the kitchen, buy a great knife, buy a great soup saucepan, heavy bottom, double bottomed, so that you can be able to caramelize and roast and really get color on vegetables and develop the flavor. Get some amazing olive oil. The darker the bottle, the better the olive oil. Remember that. Get yourself some great butter and kosher salt. Kosher salt. Everybody thinks that sea salt is the way to go, and it's a misnomer that chefs have sold you so they can sell you their version of salt. Kosher salt has lower salinity, kosher salt has higher salinity, easier to use. Sea salt is very low salinity, expensive. Get rid of it. Use your kosher salt. That's how I would step up my game if I was a home cook. Good salt, good olive oil, good butter, a hell of a knife, and a great pan. Yours?
I would say immersion blender.
Oh yeah, immersion blender. That's a good one.
That's a good one to step up in your game because
makes life easier.
Makes life easier, and if you're trying to make a sauce or something, it's a lot easier and it's so fast. Or if you're trying to make a soup or something.
Yeah.
And then I've been stepping up my game here lately with an air fryer. So
yeah.
So I got an air fryer and I've just been having fun with it and stepping up my game with late night snacks.
Of the air fryer. King of the air fryer.
So if you haven't got an air fryer, go out there and get yourself one because they're really cool and you can do so much with it. And if you're on a time crunch, you can make a quesadilla in 3 minutes. No lie. So go out there and get yourself one. Sure.
Nice. We're going to have an air frying with Nathan episode coming up here pretty soon.
Oh, so good. That's so
good. I need to be taught. I just got one.
Oh, Nathan.
I'm reading the instructions. I have to get a magnifying glass to read the directions.
Have Nathan do it. We'll do a show with Nathan air frying. He is the greatest guy.
Fabulous.
I get the coolest treats. I'm very grateful.
You can do a lot for real.
Very cool. Well, I'm just about out of questions here. Jinx, is there any questions that I haven't asked that you wish I had, or is there anything you just want to share with people out there?
I know a lot of people are have during the Corona quarantine were trying the sourdough.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody was doing the sourdough. It's or my friends on Facebook were all doing the sourdough. And that's really nice. But I'm going to tell you, it's something that you just can't stop doing. And then try to come back to. It's it's a commitment. Go buy yeast. Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking about the sourdough challenge. Is there anything that kind of inspired by that is something that people with this time they're kind kind of stuck at home, trying to learn new skills?
Well, yeast was like hard to find for a while. And so like that was the big thing, was like starting the sourdough. Well, you go through so much flour. I mean, there's really so much waste when you're trying to get a starter going. I mean, I grew up in a household where my mother did it so many times. It was just unbelievable. I could probably start a starter in my sleep. But it was a real craze during this coronavirus. I mean, it really, really was. Yeah, I think that's really great that people got in the kitchen and started baking. But are you going to keep it up? Or was it just a waste of flour? You know?
Right.
That's my thing, because it's like you have to feed it every, regularly. And it has to. There are friends that I had that like would like make pizza dough out of what they were throwing away and try to do things, which I think that's cool. But I just think that once this is over, it'll just all have been a fad. And then they'll all forget how to do it in a few weeks anyway, and they'll have to watch YouTube videos. So,
yeah. Is there anything on that? I mean, on that note, is there anything that people should learn to bake that's going to be more sustainable, that they'll bring with them into the world after all of this?
You know what? I think if people learned how to make muffins and like quick breads, things that they would like think of doing, like, oh, I'll do this again during the holidays for friends. I mean, that's a good thing to like to play with baking wise during this time. It's things that you'll actually use along the way in the future. I mean, I remember when I first started baking, and I would bake pound cakes for my aunts and uncles and cousins at Christmas time. They would love it, and I guess they got they got tired of when I got tired of making them, that I started giving them Mrs. Meyer soaps. So, that's just, I think it's a fun thing to do. So it's a personal gift when you bake something for someone. So, start playing with things that you can like give people personally.
Very cool. I'll have to have you back on to walk us through making a professional muffin that's not just from a mix.
Hey, that's cool. I'd love to. Make a fabulous blueberry muffin.
Very cool. Appreciate you. All right, Thomas, any questions that we haven't asked that you'd want to walk us through?
I don't think I have any questions. I guess just a suggestion, if you want to learn how to bartend, especially during the quarantine and everything, instead of investing in the books now and going to Amazon, which Bezos has plenty of money, so you don't have to buy anything. There's a lot of good resources on Facebook, local bartenders that are out. Betty Cocktail comes to mind, that are sharing their knowledge of their craft, and just to subscribe to them as well as here. Just keeps them going. You know what I mean? Like, they get out there, they show you how to make drinks, especially these local bartenders now here in Dallas and the surrounding Metroplex. If you really want to learn, a lot of these guys and girls are credible and super awesome at what they do. And, starting there, if you want to learn, would be awesome, would be ideal if you really want to learn and not spend so much money on books. off there.
Very cool. And if there was like a sourdough starter where you're learning a new skill, right? It's both learning a new skill and making use of what's available currently with shortages and all of that. Is there kind of a bartending version of that where I can learn to make a drink with things that are readily available now?
Yeah. I'm not sure about the sourdough challenge, but if you have any fruit, we could go back to Prohibition days and just have that bad boy ferment and make some bathtub gin, and then you can just have your own delicious fermented fruit booze. In prison, they call it wine water. that you make out of just fermented fruit. And then you can start there. It's going to be coarse. It's going to be disgusting, but it's going to be yours and it's going to be delicious to you.
It's going to be hooch.
It's going to be hooch. Yeah. Like, you can make your own hooch. So the sourdough challenge, the hooch challenge, you know, if there's a shortage of whatever at the store, pick up whatever fruit you can pick up, put it in a container and just let that bad boy ferment. You'll get something.
Perfect.
Shame and a hangover.
Yeah.
So, Blythe, it sounds like we got a segment set up with Jinx making muffins and Thomas making bathtub gin. And
Thomas making hooch.
that's right. So, Blythe and Nathan.
I'm going to leave everyone with a challenge out there. So here's a good challenge. So I have a few friends that I play golf with, and they're telling me about how they're still uncomfortable about going inside a restaurant. So I told them to challenge themselves. Figure out what's your favorite restaurant and then cook that dish that you normally get from that restaurant with the ingredients that, you know, you can just get from the store or whatever, and just challenge yourself to recreate that dish. And so, you know, I think that'd be fun. Something new, especially for those who are still scared to like get into a restaurant and still feel uncomfortable. You know, just challenge yourself to make that special dish that you like at that restaurant. And I think it'd be a really cool challenge to do. And, you know, I'd like to hear everyone's feedback on it and tell me your challenge.
I love that.
I love it. That's great.
That's a
awesome.
really good idea. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the family that cooks together stays together. I think it's fun to, you know, Nathan started a garden during this quarantine and we've been cooking together every night. And it's been fun to challenge each other and different foods and what you want. But I mean, there's something very cathartic and very healing and very loving about cooking. And I feel like what Jinx said is absolutely true. Like baking, cooking, like these are gifts of love. These are acts of love. And I think in this time and all times, we all need more love in our lives. So keep cooking, keep baking, keep drinking, and we'll all get through this.
Very, very cool. So I'm going to ask each of you for one big success in your career and one big failure. So one, if it was a dish or a catering engagement or kind of whatever, one big success and one big failure, if you don't mind. So Jinx, you're up first, or we can go back to you if you want.
I'm like, why me? I'll tell you what I'm proudest of. I don't know that it was a success. I mean, I think it was July's wedding cake. That was the most success to me because I was very happy with it at the end, and I love them so much that to me, when like people were just standing around watching it, I was like, I felt like that was my biggest success. Biggest failure?
Jinx, I bet you and I
You'll
can
see it in a couple of weeks.
What did you say?
I said you'll see it in a few weeks. I don't know. I don't know when it'll be on. And I don't really consider that my biggest failure. I think my biggest failure was I don't think it's happened yet.
Something to look forward to. Something to look forward to.
I actually, I guess it was going back to work for, and he'll probably, God knows if he'll watch this, going back to work for NL Group and then them closing the restaurants like right after I'd done it. I think that was my biggest failure.
So you killed the restaurant.
Yeah, I didn't kill the restaurant, but they closed down. It was like, like within like 9 months. So it was like, so it was like, I felt like it was a failure to me in that respect. I felt like I had been failed.
It was their failure, not yours.
Well, my failure for taking the job.
You live, you learn.
Oh, well.
That's fair. All right, so Thomas, same question. Biggest success in your career, biggest failure.
Okay. I'm gonna piggyback on Jinx and say my biggest success has not happened yet, career-wise. But I guess my biggest success outside of helping facilitate a loyal following of Pink Magnolia was Vine and Moonshine. You know what I mean? Starting a bar staffing business, which is what I love to do, is make drinks. And getting, pretty sizable corporate contracts that I knew I was in over my head, but somehow, managed to pull it off by the grace of God and all that stuff. So I think, getting those in a lot of those events, probably each success was better than the last. You know what I mean? Just learning on the fly how to get some of this stuff done. I think that would be my biggest success in my thus far. And my biggest failure, outside of the 3 or 4 or 5 times that Chef has fired me from Pink Magnolia and then subsequently called me back to come back to work the next day because it was brunch. And who else can do it? My biggest failure, I guess professionally, restaurant-wise, just biting off more than I can chew. Sometimes in trying to lead in a leadership role. I've made some mistakes in the past, and I'll be honest. Just not A, not knowing what I'm doing, or B, not being as empathetic as I could with people that depended on me. But I think now that looking back, you learn from those mistakes and try to learn and grow. But I think biting off a little more than I can chew and trying to lead back in the day, I guess, would be my biggest failure.
Gotcha. Very cool. So Blythe and Nathan, once again, you have the advantage of both having a second to ruminate on it and it being your question and hearing their answers. Given all those handicaps, what's your favorite successes?
Yes. Who's winning, Scoop? I want to know who's winning.
That's for me to know.
Okay.
My biggest success was hiring Nathan Black, I think 6 years ago. Was the smartest thing I ever did. I think that was by far the best, most successful thing that I've done. And my biggest failure is, we all have had a lot because it's the restaurant business. Let me say 2 things. My biggest success was by far hiring Nathan and the amazing thing that's come out of that. I had an amazing success that I cooked my mom the most incredible 5-pound lobster after my dad died. It was her first birthday and Mother's Day. It was her first birthday. And I was so worried and I wanted to do something nice for her. And I cooked her a 5-pound lobster that took 4 chefs and 5 line cooks to do this thing. His name was Pedro. Rest in peace. But thank you for your sacrifice. That was a pretty magical moment to do for my mom. My dad had just died, so that was a pretty big up. Pretty big down for me was when my friend Brady James had called and invited the entire defensive line rookie dinner to the restaurant that I was working at. And I cooked for them for like 3 days. It was like making all this amazing food and these ribs, which were his favorite. And I had totally, just like Jinx said, I had forgotten that I had seasoned it twice. And it was not nice. And it was the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my entire life. And when you put a whole bunch of very large men that are used to eating very well together, they're going to let you know. And that was, by far my biggest culinary failure, I think. That's what sticks out of my head the most because, it's like this big dinner that every restaurant wants. We got it. I was cooking for it. This is my friend. And whoops. So you can over-season ribs twice. What about you? Biggest success?
My biggest success is probably getting my first private chef gig. That's all I wanted to do all my life. And so being able to get that first gig just was like life for me. Is like the big moment. I was like, oh my God, I'm on my own. I'm nervous as all heck. And, and and just being able to get that first gig and being able to get it out of the way, and knowing that I was capable of doing it was probably like the biggest success. My biggest failure, probably burning 300 turkey legs at a catering.
Yeah.
That was my and we had to serve in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so, turning around and making turkey salad was probably the most craziest thing that, I'm saying, probably biggest failure for sure. But it turned out to be actually great. So
very smoky turkey salad.
So,
right.
But yes, burning 300 turkey legs. Yeah, that sucks. So, but we came, and we were able to incredible out of it.
Totally proud about that.
Yeah,
oh my god!
I'd say that's.
We did so many successive failures. I forgot about that huge one. I do forget about that. I think we all say cheers to a million more successes that we all have coming our way. We all have so many more successes coming, and I cannot wait. Cannot wait for it all. Scoop, I think your big success was moderating this question and answer.
I hope I didn't.
Well, that and marrying your wife.
That's true. That's definitely my biggest success.
Absolutely. This has been awesome, Scoop. Thank you. Thank you, Jinx. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I'm excited to see you guys soon, and this was so fun to get to talk to each other and learn about each other's crafts. Scoop, I think it's safe to say that the Blacks won, correct?
We'll have a reveal later on.
Awesome.
Of the winners and losers.
Thanks, it was fun.
And it's so fun to get together with all my friends and talk about the things we know, the things we don't know, mistakes, and all the advice. We love hearing from you, and we keep wanting you to reach out to us, ask us more questions. We'll give you more answers, but in the meantime, pour a drink, make a meal, bake a cake, and have a hell of a good time. We'll see you soon. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.